What is up, not a Grom fam? Today we're finally doing the install of the HD clutch springs for the 2018 Kawasaki Ninja 400. If you have a newer Kawasaki Ninja 400 and you have problems with the clutch slipping, especially at higher RPMs, this is an easy and inexpensive fix. It only cost me about $30 for these springs. I'll show you the part number here in a little bit. You will have to drain your oil for this install. If you do not know how to do that, there will be a link to a video on how to do that in the description down below. But let's go ahead and get started. First, you start off by removing the cowl, which is these 3 Allen bolts, 3 on each side. Then there's 3 more on the other side in pretty similar locations. Once all 3 of those are out, the cowl just pops off and you can pull it out of place. Then we move over to the clutch cover, where you'll have to remove all of these little bolts, including these 2 right behind the fairing. You do not have to remove the fairing on this side. You can just remove one little Allen bolt here, and you can kind of pry it out of the way enough to get the wrench in there. I've also made a little diagram so that you can lay all of your bolts on it. Now this little blue indicator is for this one nut with the punch in it. That particular nut you have to use Loctite on, but I use it just as a reference so that you'll know exactly where all of the nuts go out on paper. To get started, just go ahead and loosen them all up, and then you can just unscrew them all by hand. Now you can see they're all laid out on the paper as they should be, so you'll know exactly where they go when you go to reinstall them. Here's that diagram there. Once you've got all the nuts out, the next thing you need to do is to remove the clutch cable from your clutch lever. You need to push this line all the way in. Be sure to remove that nut entirely. I kind of forgot to do that at first. Then you can pull this lever back and pull that up, which will release the clutch cover. Then it just slides out of there. You don't have to detach anything else, just kind of move it out of the way so that you can work around it. Next, you want to remove these 3 10mm bolts here. These are the 3 bolts that hold the clutch springs in place. Just go ahead and loosen all 3 of them. Then take your socket and just turn them a couple of turns each until the whole thing comes off. You don't want to just take them all the way off one at a time. Once you got all 3 of those loose, you can just unscrew them by hand as shown here. Then you can remove that little plate, which reveals the springs themselves behind there. These are the 3 stock springs. Up next, you can install your new springs, and these are the springs that I used, and this is the part number if you'd like to order them for yourself. Again, I paid about $30 shipped for these on eBay. Now you just pop those into place exactly the way the stock springs came out. Take all the screws and put them in that plate. And then put the plate over the top of the springs and start to screw them in by hand. Once you get them all started, just tighten them all down by hand until it gets to a point where you can't really tighten them anymore, and then you need to move on to the torque wrench. If you have a torque wrench like this is too big of a torque wrench. You need a pound-inch torque wrench, not a pound-foot torque wrench. I picked up this pound-inch torque wrench, which is a 1/4 inch drive at Harbor Freight, for about 20 bucks. It wasn't real expensive, but it is perfectly effective. Once you get your torque wrench out, you want to torque your 3 clutch nuts down to 89 inch-pounds. Just set it for 89 inch-pounds and just turn it over until you hear that little click. And once you've got them all down, you want to go ahead and go back and check them all. Just put it on there and just make sure it clicks immediately. Once you've rechecked all of them, now you're ready to reinstall your clutch cover, which just goes back on exactly the way it came off. Now you can go ahead and start putting all your clutch cover nuts back in. And don't forget to put a little bit of Loctite on that one nut. You'll also want to set your torque wrench to 87 inch-pounds for this reinstall. And yes, the torque wrench will fit in between those fairings. It takes a little finagling, but it does fit. And of course, just like on the other, you just go all the way around until it clicks. Go back and check all of them to make sure they're right on at 87 inch-pounds. Of course, after that, you want to reinstall your clutch cable to your clutch lever and check it for tension. And then you can put your cowl back on and go for a ride. In fact, we're going to go on one right now.
All right, we're out on the bike. We got the clutch springs installed, and the weather has been a little bit spotty over the weekend. I actually did this install a couple of days ago, but well, like I said, the weather just hasn't been great. It wasn't supposed to rain, and then it rained anyways. And then today it was supposed to rain all day, and it ended up not raining all day. It does kind of look like it's probably going to rain pretty soon, though, so hopefully we don't get rained out on this little ride. But I have been riding the bike a little bit here and there. I just haven't had the camera attached for every part of that, but I do know that the springs are holding up really well. You do get a lot more positive engagement out of the clutch. I did notice as soon as I started the bike up and started to ease out of the driveway that engagement was a lot more aggressive. And so far, I haven't been able to make it slip. And I've gone on some pretty hard pulls, so I think our problem is pretty much resolved. But let's get out here on a little stretch and see if we can't make it do some stuff. Now, if you notice in some of those previous videos, a lot of the slippage was at the higher RPM band, especially shifting close to redline. That's something I'm not experiencing at all at this point. It seems that these HD springs have definitely done the trick. Go ahead and let them get some distance on me. Nobody behind me. And watch that one more time. So no slippage on the top end whatsoever, so our problem seems to be solved. And I have taken it out on interstate. I have stretched it all the way through 6th gear. Definitely didn't have any problems there. If I had a spare camera on me, I would do a burnout, but I don't have one. But I definitely did a burnout in the street in front of my house after the springs were installed, so they definitely hold up well. And if you have a Kawasaki Ninja 400 and you're having this clutch slipping problem, or I'd even say even if you haven't developed it yet, because it is coming, it will happen eventually. But I mean, pretty much everybody has reported this issue. I don't know why Kawasaki hasn't addressed it. From my understanding, the springs that originally went in here were from the 300, and the 400 just makes too much power for them. So I mean, that was something that needed to come from the factory, and it didn't. So even if you don't have this problem yet, I highly recommend that you take care of this problem before it becomes a problem. But that's it for today's video. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Peace.